new acting prime minister, can he hold the movement together, given that the Houthi movement has basically received quite a large blow when it comes to top command in their government?
Firstly, we should understand that al-Houthi group is a very doctrinized group. Therefore, it is not the Prime Minister's role that given the legitimacy. It isn't real. So the Prime Minister or the government in general has no great effect in the movement. It is just a face, an attempt of the group is to give it to itself as an indication that has the ability of having a government, but it has no effect. What effect is the doctrine side, as Abdul Malik al-Houthi, which means the Jihadist Council is formed of 7 persons, and then the family of what is called the Hashemite or the doctrinist of the Hashemite, and those are the ones is running the scene from behind. It is well known that the Rahawi, as named the Prime Minister, has the office director from the doctrine and the family group that manage the Prime Minister, and even they used to call him that he is not the office director but the Prime Minister. So certainly Miftah, as an acting Prime Minister assigned to reform the government, and this government isn't recognized domestically and internationally, and he is just a part of the very narrowed and close circle of Abdul Malik, that he was running the government and as a deputy prime minister. So the issue of the cabinet or that being kidnapped by the Houthis, and even in Sana'a in general, there is a great Houthianization of all the government posts. So we are before a very clear landscape as in the system of the valid faqih, and the Houthis equation that need to be imposed of the controlled territories by the Houthis, that has only people and a leader leading by the name of God, and has the divine right to govern the Yemenis, and the rest are just worshippers. So any other designation to either the political council or even the other ministers are just the echo of the will of Abdul Malik al-Houthi.
Your point there, Mr. Ismail, makes it's clear. We understand now that the Houthi movement in general only sees this as a symbolic win for Israel. It's not really a win for them, and it hasn't destroyed the movement. But let's talk to Dr. Dawood about this now. Could this strike backfire on Israel by turning, this symbolic strike, I suppose, on Houthi leaders into martyrs, fueling broader regional outrage and the recruitment for the resistance axis? Would this fuel the tensions further?
Well, of course, Ilham, this attack against the cabinet, although I fully agree with Mr. Jamal on the insignificant role of this cabinet, the prime minister, and those kinds of names in the case of the Houthis, but it definitely will give the Houthi leadership, which is the religious leadership Mr. Jamal referred to, Mr. Abdul Malik al-Houthi, will give them justification to escalate further their attacks against the Israeli targets, and particularly the Ben Gurion airport and certain Israeli military targets, if they can reach that. But again, the attempts by the Houthis definitely hurt the Israeli economy. It forces those missiles, they force the Israeli public to get into bunkers and hide for hours. But at the end of the day, over the past 2 years, these missiles have been more symbolic rather than militarily effective in pressuring Israel to stop its genocide war against the Palestinians in Gaza. So my answer is maybe in the coming few weeks or in the coming few days, we will see more missiles fired from Yemen towards Israel, but will not necessarily change the equation that we've been seeing over the past 2 years, even if maybe perhaps the Yemenis will try to inflict more damage to the Houthis by using more advanced missiles or missiles with a bigger damaging capability. As you again mentioned in your report, that one reason Israel justified this attack against the Yemeni political leadership is that the Houthis last week they used a missile that seemed to have that breaks up like a kind of a cluster missile. After it breaks up in the air, it breaks into smaller missiles, which made it more difficult to intercept that missile. So maybe the Houthis have some like weapon they didn't use before, some missile that has a destructive capability that they did not use before, and they would of course use the assassination of their top political leadership as a justification. But at the same time, they also have to prepare themselves for a similarly heavy retaliation from the Israeli side, considering the advanced capabilities the Israelis maintain in terms of Air Force and the support that they receive from the United States. And it's now a matter of intelligence war, whether the Israelis, after targeting the political leadership, they have more influential figures within the Houthi leadership that's going to be next, or we are going to be back to the what we have seen regularly over the past 2 years, targeting power stations, targeting airports, targeting ports such as al-Houthi, which again would not change the situation. What would change, Reham, the situation and bring peace and calm to this region is to stop the Israeli war against the Palestinians in Gaza, and then we would not see attacks from the Houthis or threats from other parts towards the Israelis, because again, that's the main justification for any action so-called resistance groups are using to attack Israel.